My dead brother called me at 1:14 in the morning, and before you decide I'm insane, you need to understand something first. I heard his voice, not someone who sounded similar, not a distorted recording, not imagination. It was Marcus, the exact same deep voice I grew up with, the same tired laugh at the end of sentences, the same habit of pausing before saying my name. And the moment I heard it, every hair on my body stood up. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 28 years old, investigative journalist, born and raised in Chicago. And 6 months ago, my younger brother died in a car accident. At least, that's what they told us. Before I continue, I want you to ask yourself something honestly. If someone you buried called you in the middle of the night, would you answer the second time? Because I did, and I still regret it. Marcus Carter was 24, funny, loud, restless, the kind of person who couldn't sit still during movies, the kind who talked to strangers in grocery store lines, the kind who made every room louder the second he walked into it. My mother used to say Marcus was born moving, and maybe she was right. Growing up, Marcus followed me everywhere. I was the careful one, the responsible one. Marcus was chaos. At 13, he broke his arm jumping off our garage roof because he thought he could probably land it. At 16, he got suspended for racing shopping carts through school hallways. At 22, he tried to learn boxing for exactly 6 days before quitting because getting punched is actually terrible. That was Marcus. Messy, alive, impossible not to love. Which is why the funeral never felt real to me, not completely. The accident happened on Interstate 94 during heavy rain, single-car collision. That's what the police report said. Marcus supposedly lost control near an exit ramp around 11:40 p.m. His car hit the barrier, vehicle caught fire, closed casket funeral. That detail matters because nobody actually saw Marcus afterward. Not really. At the time, grief makes you accept things you'd normally question. Police reports, hospital paperwork, condolences. Your brain stops resisting reality because the pain already feels unbearable enough. So we buried him, and life became quieter afterward. Too quiet. 6 months later, I was still sleeping with the television on. Grief changes nighttime first. Silence becomes dangerous. Every memory gets louder after midnight. That night, I'd fallen asleep on the couch while editing an article on political corruption. Rain tapped softly against the apartment windows. Chicago looked half drowned outside. Then my phone rang. 1:14 a.m. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But journalists develop weird instincts about late-night calls. Sometimes bad news arrives after midnight. So I answered. Hello? Static. Soft breathing. Then, Naomi? My entire body froze instantly. Not metaphorically, physically frozen. Because I knew that voice. I knew it better than my own sometimes. Marcus? Silence. Then a quiet laugh. You always sound mad when you answer the phone. I couldn't breathe. My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. That sentence. Marcus had said that to me for years. Every late-night call, every stupid emergency, every drunken ride request. Exactly those words. Who is this? You know who it is. The voice sounded tired, distant, like he was speaking from somewhere cold. This isn't funny. I know. My heart was slamming so violently it hurt. I stood up too quickly from the couch. Who gave you this number? Another soft laugh. Naomi, it's me. No, immediately, instantly, because the human brain rejects impossible things before it processes them. No, Marcus is dead. Long silence. Then, that's what they told you. I hung up immediately. My entire apartment suddenly felt wrong. The air, the darkness, the sound of rain, everything. I stared at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. For almost 10 minutes, I stood completely motionless in my kitchen. Then I started crying. Not because I believed it was Marcus, because grief destroys logic, and hearing that voice again ripped open wounds I'd barely managed to survive. Eventually, I convinced myself it had to be a prank, someone from high school maybe, an old friend, AI voice software, something explainable. It had to be, right? That's what I kept telling myself while trying to fall asleep. But deep down, something felt wrong, because the voice hadn't just sounded like Marcus, it sounded tired in the exact same way Marcus sounded after hiding fear, and no software should know that. The next morning, I blocked the number. Problem solved. Or at least I wanted it solved. I went to work, conducted interviews, answered emails, pretended to function normally. But all day, one question kept repeating inside my head. How did they know what he used to say to me? That detail bothered me more than the voice itself. By evening, I'd almost convinced myself to let it go. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Different number this time. My stomach dropped instantly. I stared at the screen for almost 30 seconds before answering. What? Static again. Then, you blocked the other phone. I stopped breathing, because this time he sounded scared. Who are you? You need to listen carefully. My entire apartment suddenly felt freezing cold. Marcus is dead. No. Sharp time, urgent. No, Naomi, I'm not dead. My heart started pounding violently again. This is sick. I don't have much time. What do you want from me? Then came the sentence that changed everything. Don't trust Dad. Silence. Thunder outside, rain hitting the windows harder now. What? You need to stop asking questions about the accident. My blood went cold instantly, because I had been asking questions, quietly, to myself mostly, things that didn't make sense in the police report. The timeline, the missing traffic footage, the closed casket. I'd never told anyone that. How do you know that? Breathing. Static. Then, because he knows what really happened. For almost 3 full minutes after the call ended, I couldn't move. I just stood there in my apartment staring at my phone while rain hammered against the windows. Don't trust Dad. That sentence kept replaying inside my head over and over, because out of everything the caller could have said, that was the one thing guaranteed to break me. My father and I had barely spoken since Marcus died, not because we hated each other, because grief made us strangers. Dad handled Marcus's death like a machine. Funeral arrangements, insurance paperwork, police reports. No emotion, no collapse, no tears. At the time, I thought maybe that was strength. Now, I wasn't so sure. I barely slept that night. Every sound inside the apartment felt amplified. The refrigerator humming, cars outside, water pipes knocking softly in the walls. Around 4 a.m., I finally opened my laptop and pulled up the accident report again. I'd already read it dozens of times before, but grief changes how people read things. The first time, you search for closure. Later, you search for mistakes. Single vehicle accident, Interstate 94, rain conditions, vehicle fire. Official cause of death, severe blunt force trauma and thermal injuries. And then something bothered me again. The body identification, dental records. Only dental records. No visual confirmation from family. I leaned back slowly in my chair, because suddenly a thought entered my head that terrified me. What if Marcus really wasn't in that car? Immediately, I rejected it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Except the caller knew things, private things, things nobody should know. And once doubt enters your mind, it spreads everywhere. The next morning, I drove to my father's house, south side of Chicago, small brick home, same place we grew up. The porch light was still broken. Marcus always promised he'd fix it, never did. Dad opened the door looking exhausted, older than 63. Grief ages people unevenly. Naomi, can I come in? He hesitated briefly, then stepped aside. The house smelled like old coffee and dust, exactly the same as always. For a few minutes, we made painful small talk. Work, weather, nothing important. Then I asked the question, Dad, did you ever actually see Marcus after the accident? Silence. His face changed immediately, not dramatically. Tiny shift. Fear. What kind of question is that? The funeral was closed casket. The condition of the body was severe. That answer came too quickly, prepared. I stared at him carefully. Did you see him? Dad looked away, and that terrified me more than if he'd shouted. Finally, he muttered, No. The room suddenly felt colder. Then how do we know it was him? His eyes snapped back toward me instantly. Because the police identified him, with dental records. That's enough. Was it? Normally, yes, probably, but my instincts were screaming now, because Dad looked nervous, not grieving, nervous. Then he asked quietly, Why are you bringing this up? And I made a mistake. I told him about the calls. Not everything, just enough. The color drained from his face so fast it genuinely frightened me. When did this happen? Last night. What exactly did they say? Too urgent, way too urgent. I stepped back slightly. Dad, what's going on? He rubbed his forehead hard, then forced a laugh that sounded completely fake. It's obviously some sick prank. Then why do you look terrified? Silence again. Finally, Naomi, you need to let this go. That sentence hit me immediately, not because of what he said, because of how he said it. People protecting truth don't say, let's figure this out. They say, stop digging. Journalists learn that very quickly. That night, I received another call, 1:32 a.m. Different number again. This time, I answered immediately. Marcus? Breathing. Then, you talked to Dad. Not a question, a statement. I sat up instantly. How do you know that? He knows you're asking questions now. Fear crawled slowly down my spine. Who are you? Long pause. Then softly, It's really me. No, I whispered. No, it's not. You still have the scar on your left knee from the skating rink. My stomach dropped, because almost nobody knew that story. I was 11. Marcus pushed me accidentally near the rink exit. 6 stitches. Family joke for years. You used to hide candy in your math textbook. Mom never figured it out. Tears filled my eyes instantly. Those weren't public facts. Those weren't social media details. Those were childhood memories, private memories. What's happening? I whispered. Static crackled softly. Then Marcus said something that made my blood run cold. I was never in the car. Silence. Thunder outside again. Every muscle in my body tightened. What? The accident wasn't supposed to happen. What are you talking about? Breathing. Fast now. Panicked. You need to find Detective Harris. Who? He worked the crash. I grabbed a pen immediately. Marcus. He knows. Knows what? Then suddenly another voice appeared faintly in the background, muffled shouting, a door slamming. Marcus whispered urgently, "They found me," and the line disconnected. I didn't sleep at all after that. By morning, I looked half dead, but I had a name now, Detective Harris. So I started searching. Retired Chicago PD, 61 years old, Internal Investigations Division before retirement. That detail bothered me immediately. Internal investigations? Why would that detective handle a highway accident? None of this made sense anymore. By noon, I found an address connected to him, small suburban house outside Joliet. I drove there immediately. The entire drive, my thoughts spiraled harder and harder. If this was a prank, it was unbelievably elaborate. But if it wasn't, then what exactly had we buried 6 months ago? Detective Harris answered the door after my third knock. Gray beard, tired eyes, old flannel shirt.
The moment I said Marcus's name, his entire expression changed. Fear, real fear. "Who are you?" I asked quietly. "I'm his sister." Harris stared at me for a long time, then muttered, "Jesus Christ." That reaction alone nearly stopped my heart. "You know something." "No, you do. I think you should leave." Was Marcus really in that car? Harris went silent, completely silent. Then he looked past me toward the empty street nervously before speaking again. "You need to stop asking questions." There it was again. Same sentence, same fear. My pulse started racing harder. What happened to my brother? Harris rubbed both hands over his face slowly, and when he finally spoke, his voice sounded exhausted. "Your brother saw something he wasn't supposed to see." I felt physically sick. What does that mean? It means if you care about staying alive, you need to walk away from this right now.
I wish I could tell you I walked away after that I listened to Detective Harris, went home, deleted the numbers, and tried to move on with my life. But if you've ever lost someone, really lost someone, then you understand the problem. Hope is addictive, and by that point, hope had already poisoned me, because now there was a possibility, however impossible, that Marcus had not died that night. And once your mind opens that door, you cannot close it again. I drove back to Chicago shaking so badly I nearly missed 2 exits. Rain followed me the entire drive. Gray sky, gray roads, gray thoughts. Everything felt unreal. When I got home, I locked every door automatically, then checked the windows, then checked them again, because Detective Harris had scared me, not with what he said, with how terrified he looked saying it. People lie all the time, but fear, real fear, is difficult to fake, and Harris had looked like a man carrying something rotten inside him for a very long time. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time, I didn't hesitate. "Marcus?" Heavy breathing, fast breathing. Then, "You went to Harris." "How do you know where I go?" "No time." His voice sounded weaker now, exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept properly in months. "Marcus, what's happening?" Silence. Then, quietly, "The body wasn't mine." I stopped breathing completely. My knees nearly gave out beneath me. "What?" "You need to listen carefully." Every instinct inside me screamed that this was insane, impossible, but my body believed him anyway. Whose body was it? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. I know. Static crackled loudly. Then Marcus whispered, "They were supposed to scare me, that's all." "Who?" Long silence, and for the first time, I heard him crying. Tiny sounds, trying to hold it together. "Do you remember that warehouse near Navy Pier?" My stomach tightened immediately. Of course I remembered. Marcus used to work security there part-time years earlier. "What about it?" "I saw something there." "What?" "I thought it was drug money." Thunder shook the windows outside. I was wrong. The fear in his voice felt real now, painfully real. "What did you see, Marcus?" Another long pause. Then, "Police." Cold spread slowly through my chest. "What?" "Dirty cops, cash transfers, weapons." I sat down slowly because suddenly I felt dizzy. Marcus continued. "They saw me." My mind raced violently, trying to connect everything. The crash, Harris, Dad's fear. Oh my God. "They took my phone, my car, everything." "Marcus, where are you?" "I can't tell you." "Why?" "Because if they find you," the line suddenly crackled violently. Then another voice appeared. Not Marcus. A man. Distant but angry. "Hang up the damn phone." Marcus inhaled sharply, then whispered, "I'm sorry, Naomi," and the line ended. I didn't cry. Not immediately.
Shock protects you before pain arrives. Instead, I sat completely motionless on my couch, staring into darkness for nearly an hour. Then, finally, one thought broke through everything else. Dad knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to terrify him. Enough to stay silent. At 2 a.m., I grabbed my keys and drove straight to his house. I don't even remember the drive, just red lights and rain. When Dad opened the door, he looked horrified to see me. "Naomi, you knew." His face collapsed instantly, and right there, before he even spoke, I knew it was true. "You knew he was alive." Dad sat down heavily at the kitchen table, like his legs stopped working. For almost a full minute, he said nothing. Then, quietly, "I thought they'd kill him." The room tilted around me. "You talked to him?" Dad nodded once. Tears filled his eyes immediately. First tears I've seen since Marcus died. "He came here 2 nights after the crash." My heart pounded violently. "He was terrified, said cops were after him." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because they threatened us." Dad slammed his fist at the table suddenly. Real fear exploded out of him now. "2 men came here after Marcus disappeared. Real police, real badges. They told me if anyone asked questions, both my children would end up dead." Silence. Rain outside, the refrigerator humming softly behind us. My father looked 20 years older suddenly. "I thought hiding the truth protected you." I stared at him in disbelief. "You let me bury an empty coffin." "No," Dad whispered brokenly. "I let you bury someone else's son." That sentence shattered something inside me, because somewhere out there, another family never got answers either. Dad finally told me everything before sunrise. Marcus had witnessed a weapons exchange involving several corrupt officers connected to organized crime operations near Navy Pier. He panicked, tried to leave quietly, but they discovered he'd seen them. Then the accident happened days later, except Marcus escaped before impact. Someone else didn't. The body inside the burning car was never publicly identified beyond dental substitution arranged through corruption inside the department. The official story closed too quickly because powerful people needed it closed. And Detective Harris, he'd helped cover it up, not willingly at first, fearfully, because corruption spreads through pressure, threats, families, careers, lives. By morning, I felt sick from reality itself because the world suddenly seemed much darker than I'd believed. 3 days later, Marcus contacted me one final time, this time video call, private encrypted app. The image was grainy and dark, but it was him, really him, older somehow, thinner, exhausted. The second I saw his face, I started crying uncontrollably. Not graceful crying, ugly grief. 6 months of mourning collapsing all at once. Marcus cried too. "Hey, now." Same voice, same stupid nickname. I covered my mouth, trying to breathe. "Oh my God. I'm sorry. Where are you?" "I can't tell you." "Come home." His face broke instantly at that. "I can't." And deep down, I knew he was telling the truth. Some damage changes your life permanently. Marcus looked like someone living inside permanent fear now. "They're still looking for me," he whispered. "What do we do?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "You move on." "No." "Yes, I just got you back." "You never really got me back, Naomi." That sentence hurt because it was true. The brother I lost 6 months ago was gone either way, even if he survived. Trauma had changed him into someone else, maybe changed all of us. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. "Listen carefully," he said quietly. "You need to stop digging now." I almost laughed through tears. Everybody keeps saying that. Because this story doesn't end well for people who keep pulling at it. Silence settled between us. Then Marcus smiled meekly. You still sleeping with the TV on? I nodded. You always did that after nightmares. That destroyed me again, because suddenly we were children for a tiny second, just brother and sister, before death, before corruption, before fear. I love you now. My throat closed completely. I love you too. The screen froze briefly, then Marcus said the last words I've heard from him to this day. Tell Mom I'm sorry. And the line disconnected. That was 8 months ago. I haven't heard from Marcus since. Sometimes I still wonder if he's alive. Sometimes I convince myself the entire thing was trauma-induced madness. But then I remember the video call, his face, his voice. No hallucination could create that. Internal Affairs eventually opened investigations into several officers connected to organized crime operations near Navy Pier. 2 arrests were quietly made. No public connection to Marcus was ever acknowledged. Detective Harris disappeared shortly afterward, retired permanently. My father and I speak more now. Grief shared honestly looks different than grief buried under lies. And me? I still answer unknown numbers after midnight, every single time, just in case, because somewhere out there, my brother might still be running. And if the phone rings again one night, I know I'll answer, even if it destroys me. My name is Naomi Carter, Chicago, Illinois, and my dead brother called me 6 months after we buried him.